Hello everyone, welcome to my Bourne Conspiracy Assassin difficulty walkthrough. This is Mission 3, Assassinate Wombozi. And at the start you want to shoot that guy in the head because he has a gun. And then that guy right there, he also has a gun, so I'm going to try to kill him, but he gets into cover because unfortunately he doesn't flinch from my shots. And the enemies take a lot more punishment from your bullets than you'd actually think. I mean, look at how many shots this guy takes. Look how many shots that guy took before he actually went down. That just seems rather superhuman of these enemies. And it can be very, very cheesy at times, because the amount of times you have a clear sight on an enemy and they should go down after like a full magazine, and they're still alive and they get into cover. It happens too much in this game. Like, I have moments in the recordings for this walkthrough where I shoot a guy like 6 times with a shotgun and he's still alive. And then I also have another moment later on where I fire a full magazine from an assault rifle into an enemy and he's still alive. And this happens twice, I believe. Like, the damage on the enemies is so badly calculated. The stuns on the enemies are badly calculated, and really, like, the only time you're ever going to get any real stun on the enemy is when you shoot them in the leg, but at times it's just very inconsistent and it's not guaranteed. And also, if the enemies happen to be in any kind of specific crouch animation, I think they're less susceptible to stuns. Like, the shooting on this game is just one of the most baffling design choices ever. It's so incongruous with the nature of functional third-person shooter design, and I just don't see how that's possible. But do a stealth takedown on this guy so that you can get some adrenaline if you need it. You'll definitely want to save at least 2 bars of adrenaline when you get to the upper area of this submarine area. So when you hit that switch, 2 guys are going to spawn right over there. So use your pistol to deal with them. And then you'll want to grab the machine pistol from one of these enemies. The pistol is crap compared to the machine pistol. At least the machine pistol gives you the luxury of missing because, of course, it's a rapid-fire weapon that has a little bit more ammunition compared to the standard pistol. And, because you're dealing a lot of damage with rapid bursts, the enemies are more likely to be stunned, and also they'll go down a little bit faster compared to the standard pistol. But occasionally you'll want to use your shooting takedown on these guys because these enemies have a tendency of taking cover, and with how hard it is to make micro adjustments to your reticle on this game, I nearly run out of ammo. Like, watch this. Look at this. Is me trying to make micro adjustments, and I'm also trying to work around this issue by having Bourne move either left or right just so I can track the enemy. But it was presenting with problems, and I nearly ran out of ammo, and so I opted to use the shooting takedown. I believe you can still use the shooting takedown even when you have no ammunition in your guns, but this is where you need the 2 adrenaline bars. You'll need to use your adrenaline to take out these enemies. Just make sure you don't miss the quick time events, otherwise you'll waste your adrenaline. And once that's done, you just need to sink the submarine, and then we have a couple more skirmishes with the enemies. So there's going to be an opportunity for you to use another stealth attack on an enemy that is busy doing maintenance work. And by using this tier of adrenaline, you're able to do a running takedown on a shotgun guy. Shotgunners aren't as dangerous as you'd expect. They're nowhere near as dangerous as the guys with the assault rifles and pistols when you're trying to close in on them. Because I find that most of the time I just go into critical health whenever I'm trying to rush pistol guys and assault rifle guys rather than shotgun guys. But with this tier of adrenaline, I'm able to do the running attack on this guy, and there's only 1 guy left. And I'm just going to repeat the melee loop to build up on adrenaline. This guy is one of the enemies that will go down after 5 light kicks, and he will not block after the 3rd kick. So there we go. And make sure you grab this guy's shotgun. This is one of the cool things about this mission. It's how much it emphasizes the shotgun. And whenever any kind of Bourne mission emphasizes the shotgun, the sections are going to be a lot more fun. And there will definitely be a greater emphasis on close quarter encounters. But like I said before in the previous video, the shotgun is one of my favorite weapons in the game, even though it is a crap weapon when it comes to eliciting hit stun. But the sound effect that plays when you kill enemies, or when you just make contact with an enemy, and also when they get knocked back, like, there's something about the knockback animation that just looks very silly to me. Like, I just laugh anytime I see that animation, and I laugh a lot more during the Treadstone Safe House mission, because the Treadstone Safe House mission, which is the last level of the game, it has the best shooting encounter in the game, and it's when you're in the stairwell section. The stairwell section is a properly designed combat encounter. It feels like it was well choreographed, and a lot of effort was put in to the flow of that encounter to really make it stand out as the best shooting encounter in the game. And it emphasizes the shotgun greatly, and that is such a fun level when it comes to that particular encounter. I mean, personally, my favorite level in the game is Eliminate the Vandalin, which is the 4th mission of the game. But in terms of my favorite shootout in the game, The stairwell encounter of the Treadstone Safehouse mission is my favorite shooting encounter in the game, but we'll get to that when we get the chance. But the game is going to task you to find the head of Corsican security and use his gun to eliminate Wombozi to give the impression that the hit was part of a palace coup. And this is strange because the pistol that you get from the Corsican when you do eliminate him is the best pistol in the game, but you only get to use it on this level, and you only get to use it to take out 3 enemies. And the reason why it's the best is because it gives you the ability to instantly kill enemies. That pistol is a one-hit kill on every single enemy regardless of the body part that you shoot, but you only use it 3 times in this mission. And then you never see it again, and instead you have to rely upon the normal pistol or the machine pistol. Although the machine pistol, you don't really encounter a lot of enemies using machine pistols that much, which is honestly surprising. You see a lot more enemies using assault rifles and shotguns, or like normal pistols, than you do with a lot of those other weapon types. But this encounter right here, you need 3 tiers of adrenaline, and do not rush into this encounter immediately. If you do, you will go into a mandatory melee encounter. You need to get rid of this guy using your machine pistol because he will always go into that animation. There is another guy as well, but he doesn't show himself unless you go outside. And you'll want to immediately do the takedown to ensure that you don't do the multi-takedown. This was something that I discussed a bit in text in the previous mission, but I'll discuss it right here. You cannot control how many bars of adrenaline you're able to use. Like, if you have 3 enemies surrounding you and you have 3 tiers of adrenaline, you have to use all 3 tiers of adrenaline if you decide to press circle. You can choose whether you want to use the takedowns on 2 enemies or just do a single takedown on a single enemy. You have to commit to what the game will allow you to do if you have the amount of tiers that correspond to the number of enemies that are currently surrounding you. And it's the same with the shooting takedowns, only with the shooting takedowns there's a little bit more control because with proper placement of Bourne, you can avoid having to select the option where the game will prioritize multiple enemies and so you'll waste multiple tiers of adrenaline. But so I just wish the game offered a little bit more flexibility with that. Oh, and also right here, this third guy right here that I'm shooting at, he's programmed to crouch like that and just walk. But I think what you can do is just rush him and just do the melee attack on him. I mean, maybe he'll shoot you if you get in front of him, but I'm pretty sure on previous playthroughs I've gotten in front of that enemy and he's always like rushed at me because he's busy trying to fulfill his scripting, and I'm able to build up some adrenaline for this part right here. And it's best to have adrenaline for this part right here because the enemies have assumed the high ground. And whenever the enemies assume the high ground and they crouch behind the railing, even though you can literally see their body and you can shoot them, the auto-aim doesn't prioritize them. And so the micro adjustment issue is going to be a huge factor to consider when you're trying to shoot these enemies. But this guy you need to do melee attacks on in order to build up your adrenaline for the next combat encounter. So I believe this guy, yeah, he goes down after 5 light kicks. And then this next guy, he will not go down after 5 light kicks. And this is where I should have been using the updated melee loop where I just do nothing but light kicks against this guy, but I still commit to the heavy kicks with this original one, which I shouldn't be doing. So you see, like right there, the heavy kick, because it has very little range, it misses very easily, and so that gave the enemy the chance to hit me. Luckily, the enemies aren't that damaging in the melee combat, which obviously makes a lot of sense. It makes total sense why fists wouldn't be as damaging as your guns. And right here, you need to have the machine pistol for this part. So there are a couple of enemies that are across the pool, and it's best you get rid of some of the enemies. Like, get rid of 2 enemies, and then use your shooting takedown to get rid of the last 2 enemies. I believe there's about 4 enemies in this sequence, but the next 2 enemies only spawn when you get to this threshold over here. So I'm struggling with the shooting right now, so I'm just going to commit to the shooting takedown. You'll get some adrenaline back when you fight the Corsican, or rather, it won't really matter because you'll gain access to his instant kill pistol that will take out the 3 enemies, and then you lose all your adrenaline when you start Solomon's boss fight, which I don't really understand why this is the case, and this is a big problem with the Bourne conspiracy. If you die and you respawn at the last checkpoint, you will lose out on any adrenaline that you have accrued, so you will start out with 0 adrenaline, and I just think it's a big problem with this game. Because you spend all that time accruing adrenaline, just being like very intelligent with your use of adrenaline, and then the game unnecessarily punishes you by taking away all your adrenaline that you've been working hard to obtain. And most of the time, when you die on this game, it's never really your fault, because a lot of the times the enemies, they tend to gain all these properties that just allow them to cheat, and then a lot of the times you fight the mechanics of the game, and this gives the enemies a chance to take advantage of those problems in order to kill you, and it can be very bullshit, and just even more bullshit when the game takes away your adrenaline due to an unjustified death. But this is a mini-boss encounter with the Corsican. He works just like the standard enemies whenever they block after the third kick. Yeah, this is the case with really every single mini-boss on this game. I mean, the main bosses, they work a little differently. With certain bosses, like for instance Castell and also the Professor, they have access to melee attacks that allow them to hit you at a longer range. And because they can initiate their attacks at a longer range and it always connects with you, you can't do the kick loop against them properly. The only time you're ever going to get any kicks in is if you stun them with a 3-hit combo with a square triangle. And that's just a big problem with certain encounters like with the Professor. And the Escape the Professor mission is one of the worst missions in the game. Because not only do you have a shitty boss encounter against the Professor, and he just blocks a lot of your attacks, but you're under the pressure of a countdown, and the timer that they give you isn't very generous. Like, the recording I got for the Escape the Professor mission, when I'm doing this boss fight, I had at least 4 seconds left, and then I was able to do the boss fight successfully without dying. And I was cutting it close because I'm at the mercy of whatever the Professor chooses to do. Whether he chooses to let your attacks connect with him or not, it's all up to him. And you're at the mercy of a countdown that just isn't very generous. And there are also problems with the fight where at times you have a tier of adrenaline, but the game doesn't give you the ability to use your takedown because it's very specific on where you're standing. And I'm guessing that's the case because they didn't want to put the player in a position where Bourne would accidentally phase through a wall. And that's why it is so specific on where you are standing. But if that is the case, they should have designed the environment a lot better, or at least make the timer a lot more generous. If you're not going to get the ability to do kicks on the Professor because he has the ability to do kicks against you as well, and his kicks can cover some insane range and they can hit you before you even have a chance to initiate your kick against him when you are in range to do it. And the only time you're ever going to kick the Professor is when you stun him with the uppercut. But again, it's all up to him with whether he chooses to be stunned by the uppercut or not. And when you do takedowns against the Professor, or you counter his takedowns, you have to make sure that when you do go to punish him, that the initial position of Bourne in relation to the Professor is very close. Like, he's standing right in his face. Because the Professor will always counter you with long-range kicks. And it just adds more to the time loss in that fight. Like, there are so many random variables to that encounter that just cause you to scrape through the fight by the skin of your teeth. And it's so poorly designed. Like, you are at the mercy of random variables. There's no skill involved with that fight. It's just, will the Professor choose to counter you or not? Will he choose to block your attacks? Are you actually standing in the correct part of the environment to do takedowns? Like, there's so much wrong with that fight, and it's just a rush boss fight, and it's not even difficult for all the right reasons. It's poorly designed is what it is. I'm not going to call it difficult. It is a shit encounter. But I'm fighting Solomon right now, and Solomon works the exact same way as in the shipyard infiltration encounter. In this encounter, he has a little bit more life, and he also has the ability to do takedowns against you, so whenever you hear the noise, it means he's going to do a takedown against you, so you gotta press the quick time event in order to counter him. So the same method still works here, where after a takedown, or after I counter him, I'm going to back up, stand still for a bit, and then back up, so I can put Bourne into an animation where he is programmed to dodge the punch that Solomon does. And during that animation where Bourne dodges, I hold the square button in order to do the light kick. And I'm just going to repeat the process of doing light kicks against him whenever he chooses to attack me. And eventually he'll go down, and this will conclude this mission. This mission's a lot of fun. And it's the same case with Eliminate the Vandalin. Eliminate the Vandalin is my favorite mission in the entire game because of how diverse the gameplay is, and with the amount of different environments you're going into, and just the way the playstyles change. That's definitely a mission I'm looking forward to doing commentary for. But this is the end of Solomon's boss fight. This is the end of this mission. Stay tuned for the future missions. Thank you all for watching, and you take care now.